If you have struggled recently with your revenue, maybe you're not getting that consistency that you're looking for in your revenue, maybe you've hit a plateau, maybe you're not quite yet at the goal you have set for yourself, I would love for you to listen to this week's episode of the Align and Inspire podcast because I have a fantastic guest expert on the podcast this week. Her name is Denise Duffield Thomas. And Denise is a world well-known, honestly, money mindset mentor. She has helped me immeasurably with her books and programs in being able to grow and scale my own business. She's helped me through many revenue plateaus, income plateaus. So if you relate to any of that, I would love for you to listen in to this week's episode with Denise. She shares so many fantastic just ways to see about money, about pricing, and about boundaries around your price point, energetics of money. It is such a helpful episode. I took away so many interesting takeaways, even though I've been listening to Denise on her podcast and in her work for years. So I am thrilled to introduce this week's special guest, Denise Duffield Thomas, on the Align and Inspire podcast. Welcome to the Align and Inspire podcast. I'm your host, Laura Monique, teacher and curriculum writer turned program mentor and business strategist for coaches, educators, and mentors, and creator of signature program design. I've helped dozens of established coaches like you create their own signature program that creates incredible transformations and consistent growing revenue in their business. Whether you've created a program that felt off in some way, maybe it felt scattered or heavy or just hard to sell, or you know you're delivering results one-on-one and you want to create a more scalable offer, this is the podcast for you. Here you'll find practical strategies, encouragement, and inspiration to create the offer that you will be known for, that feels aligned, and that you are really meant to create to inspire others. Let's dive in. I am thrilled to introduce my guest speaker on today's podcast. Her name is Denise Duffield Thomas. And I have to tell you, I am thrilled to have Denise on the podcast because I have been a long time listener of Denise. I have read all her books, joined all her programs. I'm thrilled to have her here, and she is going to help you through your money mindset. It is her specialty. So Denise, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So for those of us listeners who have never heard of you or are new to you, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and who you help?
Absolutely. So yeah, you introduced me. I'm Denise Duffield Thomas, but I'm also known as Denise DT, which is a great way to find me online. And I help people, mostly women, I would say, and mostly entrepreneurs, deal with their money mindset gremlins. So this is anything that holds us back from charging what we're worth, charging in the first place. A lot of people get stuck there. And all of those mindset things that come up for us when we're growing our business. Because when you work for someone else, you don't have to set prices. Maybe you only have to talk about salary once or twice a year. But when you have your own business, you have to talk about money all the time. And I find that so many of us, it's a taboo topic. Mm-hmm. So my job is to normalize talking about money and for us to feel really confident when it comes to talking about our prices.
Yeah, I love that. And part of the reason that I was thrilled to have you on is because I've really found that my clients and me, I came from an education background, the teaching world, we were not talking about money. You're supposed to,
Nope.
Like that whole idea of the helping industry, you're not in it for the money, right? And I find a lot of my clients come in with that kind of mentality too, because a lot of people come from that helping field who work with me as they're designing their programs. So I'm curious, when you're thinking about designing programs and how you're delivering your programs, what kind of money mindset, kind of gremlins do you see coming up for people when it comes to actually creating like a group program or a signature program that they can deliver that gets great results, the charging and all that kind of stuff? What do you see coming up for people?
Oh, there's so much that goes into this. But actually, you mentioned something there about people in the helping professions.
Mm-hmm.
And because now I've spoken to so many different industries, what I find is that everyone thinks that their industry is the exception to the rule. So it's like, oh, but I really care about my clients, or in like my clients really need my help. Or sometimes it's really like almost put into the education where it's like, oh, I hope you're in this for the right reasons because you're probably not going to make any money. So I would say the money mindset stuff starts way before you even create a group program, because there's so much guilt, I think, that comes in when you are in a helping profession because you want to help everybody.
Yeah.
So you want to be available. And what happens is that people get into this cycle of over delivering and undercharging. And that, of course, leads to so much burnout, if not resentment, right? And I find that there's a massive barrier from people going from one-to-one to group because they're so burnt out from this cycle of over-delivering and undercharging. And it comes from this place of like, I want to help everybody, but then you're burnt to a crisp. And so you don't have bandwidth to create a program in itself. So then if someone gets over that hurdle and they're like, okay, doing this will help me to work with more people, to, leverage my time, but also you might not give up one-to-one stuff. You might want to do group stuff so you can help people who can't afford to work with you one-to-one, right? So if you get over that hurdle of actually having the bandwidth to do it, there's a couple of things that come up. One, people feel really guilty for charging again. And what happens, I see this again and again, people will try and find this sweet spot price that is the critic-proof price, right? That everyone is going to feel like is a good price. And so we survey people. We say, what would you pay for this? It's got like 20 videos or this many PDFs, or it goes for this amount of time. What would you pay for this? And the problem is, who knows what someone would pay for something, right? So often we're surveying people who are not our target audience. Like everyone gets a bit of an opinion, right? Or what we're trying to do is like look at what everyone else is charging and kind of price ourselves accordingly, not realizing that everyone's got money blocks. And so who knows what went into their consideration for it, right? And then again, I think a lot of people then fall into this over-delivering cycle, but instead of one client, you might have multiple clients that you're trying to over-deliver to all at the same time, which can lead to massive amounts of burnout, especially if you've got things like, I don't know, a community group as part of your program, or you're really trying to service people one-to-one even if they've only paid for a group program. So that can lead to so many boundary stuff, which can then lead to burnout, right? So it's the good news is that I want people to hear is that money blocks are just, it's okay to have them. I have them. We work through them all the time. It's not going to stop you from making money. The bad news is, I guess, that there's always going to be money blocks to work on. It's an ongoing thing. And changing your business model doesn't necessarily change them, right? They just might show up in different ways. So this is a part of, again, talking about it, normalizing the fact that you are going to have boundary conversations no matter what kind of business that you have. And sometimes those get amplified because you've actually got more people to serve.
Absolutely. I loved your point about serving people one-on-one, even though they're in a group. That totally resonated with me. But one of the stories that you were mentioning about like asking people how much they're willing to pay for this, that's kind of, I think when I started reading your books and discovering your work is when I started looking into your books, but especially the archetypes, like the sacred money archetypes. And at the time, so I help people create signature programs, but at the time I was mentoring teachers, and I sold curriculum for teachers. So I come from a curriculum writing background. And I remember asking my husband, how much would you be willing to pay for this curriculum? Because he was also a teacher. And I didn't realize until I learned from you, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's an accumulator. And so he was willing to pay zero. He was always looking for the free thing. And so if you're listening to this and you don't know what I'm talking about, I like to incorporate from what I've learned around sacred money archetypes. I decided to get certified in it. And if you have an accumulator side, it's like you're always looking for a great deal. You're looking for, you want to be a really frugal, good with money, responsible kind of person around money, and you're wary of overspending. And so when I was asking him, who he's not willing to pay for any resource, he's always looking for the free ones. You don't know what kind of block someone's going to have when you ask them how much they're willing to pay for this, when other people were willing to pay way more because it saved them time. So I loved your point about not asking different people.
It's a hard thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I should point out to people who are curious, so Kendall Summerhawk created the Sacred Money Archetypes program that both Lauren and I are certified in, which is another way of doing a signature program, right? Is to license stuff and to get people certified in your stuff. But not only is it that we're trying to get information from people who aren't our target audience, sometimes we're surveying people who aren't our target market right now. Because I remember I was procrastinating writing scripts for something, and I had reached out to someone and she quoted me something that I never would have paid, right? But I needed it like ASAP. I didn't have any choice. And so I was kind of like, okay, I will pay that. So even if I would be someone who would pay for something like that, until someone needs it, they still don't know what they would pay for it. So the best way to test out a price is literally to offer something to your clients. And that's the only way to do it. And but again, what we're trying to do often is find that critic-proof price. And even if you charged $1 for something, there'll always be someone who says it's too expensive. And even if you charge $10,000, $100,000 for something, there'll always be someone who thinks that they got really good value from it. And so who do you want to serve? Do you want to serve the people who see the value, or do you want to try and convince everybody that your porridge is the sweet spot for them? You can't do it. You can't.
And I've had and I'm sure you can relate to this, is I've had the exact same price point, and I've had people say it's too expensive. And then I've had people who have said, like, why is it so cheap? Like, is there something, like, shouldn't it be more expensive for what I'm getting? Like, this seems like it's too low, and they wonder why it's at this price point, but other people find it too expensive. Like, there's no critic-proof price.
I've absolutely had that. But you know what? This is where, if you are stuck in that over-delivering, undercharging cycle one-on-one, and someone says you're too expensive, I remember that feeling. It was like a dagger in my heart. I felt so bad. However, when you have bandwidth to create a group program, but also bandwidth to create free and low-cost things like books, like podcasts, this takes up time for you to create a podcast, right? You couldn't do it if you were super burnt out. So then if you have a one-to-one offering and someone says it's too expensive, you can say, that's fine. Like, here are other options for you. My course might be a better option for you because it is a lower price point. My book, my podcast, go and listen to those for a while. Here are some free opt-ins. But I see when people are stuck in that, like almost a martyr kind of thing, but you're burnt out and you're wondering why people aren't grateful. It's because you are often then attracting people who it's never enough for, and you don't have anywhere else to put them. And so you feel even more guilty.
Oh, that is such a good point. So do you think that kind of ties into when you raise your prices, you're maybe getting people who are looking for not less, but are more, like, how would you kind of describe that? Because I've had that when I've had lower price points. I've had people who have wanted more, and then when I've raised the price, it's like people are like, we're expecting that, and it's like an easier delivery. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but I actually don't think it's never about the price. It's always about the energetics of the price, right? So if you are resentful, and you can be resentful at any price point, then you're just not going to be a good energetic match to healthy clients for you. And I think that's the difference, because even when people say high price, low price, whatever, even that's pretty like subjective.
It's very relative. Yeah.
It really is. And so it's never about the actual price. It's always, how do you feel about the price? Can you stand behind it? Do you feel like it's fair? Do you feel like it's like good compensation for your energy? Because when it's not, like, you can charge anything and still feel resentful about it. And I remember I didn't really get this until my husband came into my business, and he was kind of like, "Oh yeah, you've done some good stuff, but do you
Fun.
realize like yeah, he's like, "Do you realize how many people email into our inbox asking for you to run a mastermind?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I don't want to do it." And he was like, "Yeah, but there's so much demand. Do you realize people would pay anything to have a mastermind with you?" And he was throwing out some numbers. He's like, "Oh, we could easily add an extra $1 million in revenue just from," and I was like sitting with it and I go, but I don't want it.
Mhm.
Like if I like wanted to do it just for the $1 million, I would still feel like it wasn't enough money because I'm like, it's not my skill set. It's just not what I want to do. And so I think you get to a certain point, once you get over the hump of actually charging in the first place, you realize that the price is just the price. It's not a reflection of you as a human being. And it's not even always about the value of the work, because again, you can work with someone low cost, high cost, and sometimes get the same result. It's so nebulous. And that's the frustrating, I think, thing for a lot of us, is because we're like, tell me the formula
Mhm.
where the most amount of people will feel like this is a good bargain or whatever it is, and it always has to come from you. And that's really, really tricky. But as soon as you feel resentful, don't you feel like sometimes then things fall apart, you attract another bad client, like it just, because it's, you're not right in yourself.
Yeah. And you're not attracting like when you think about like law of attraction, you're not going to attract people who are in that same vibration that you're in. If my husband, my
Yep.
my husband heard me right now, he'd be like, what are you even talking about? But yes, absolutely. I love that point. One thing that I wanted to ask you too, when you think about the one-to-one charging, because one of the things that I find with my clients, probably because they're drawn to me, and I definitely have done this in the past, is the people who are over delivering for a lower price point and have this sense of like, if someone pays me, I have to really go above and beyond to be able to merit them charging them. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
What kind of suggestions would you give for that?
But again, this isn't about the price, right? It's always about the energetics of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can over deliver at any price, and you can feel resentful at any price. So it's always about like being strong in yourself. I think in what can I actually offer, being really clear in what you offer. That really helps you to deal with the things that come at every phase in your business. Clients who overstep boundaries, that can happen at any price point. Being strong in your boundaries around time, around redirecting your clients, around scope creep, that can happen at every
Mm-hmm.
price point too. So I think this is a really good example of wherever you're at in your business, it's never too late or too early to set those boundaries, because it's always just going to come from your inner self, and that will serve you however much money that you make, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, it will help you attract those clients who see the value in you. Because when you're feeling wishy-washy, I feel like then you have like an energetic opening for some of those people to come in. And if you feel guilty about your prices, you'll sometimes attract people who prey on that at
Mhm.
any price point. Yeah.
And I think like that's one thing before I started studying money mindset work that I didn't realize that boundaries were so related to the money mindset work. And I think even sometimes when you step into that leadership energy, if you step into this is what I'm providing and this is what I'm allowing, and these are my boundaries around how this space and this container is going to work, someone may have, like, if you felt a bit wishy-washy, they may have like kind of overstepped, not because they mean to necessarily, it's just kind of like you didn't set that up. But if you have that clear space and this is how the container works and this is how I'm showing up as in my leadership, they'll be like, oh, okay, this is how it's going to roll, and it runs in a bit of like a more balanced
Well,
way.
you know what? I have been the client who has overstepped, but I didn't know it
Mm.
because they didn't say anything. And I felt so bad because I have ADHD. I don't always read things, super well. And I remember there was a client, she was like, sorry, I was the client, and she was like being a bit short with me, but like in a really yuck way. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? And actually what I had done, I had like overstepped. There was something that wasn't in the contract, but instead of just telling me, she just seethed behind the scenes and made things really, really awkward. And so I know for myself, when I'm the client, if someone is wishy-washy about time, money, I actually feel very unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if I'm like in a one-to-one call or something, if they're not being a timekeeper, I then feel like I have to be the timekeeper. So I know now that that is such a kind thing to do. Say, hey, Kay, we've got an hour together. Let's prioritize what we're going to talk about. Okay, we're at the halfway point. All right, let's refocus. If they don't do that, I feel like I have to take that role on, even as the client. I've been on calls with people where they're telling me about their process, and then I'm like, so can I sign up? Can I pay with credit card? Like I don't like having to be the adult in those situations. And also, I'm a high net worth individual. I work with people all the time who earn less money than me, but that's not what I'm going to them for. I'm going to them for their expertise. And when they are strong in their leadership, like you said, I feel taken care of. And I can't work with people who are sitting behind the scenes thinking, oh, I can't send that invoice because she's going to think I'm a bitch. I'm like, just send the freaking invoice. Why should I have to ask 3 times for it? But I know what's going on behind the scenes sometimes, right? We're going, oh my God, maybe I should discount it. It's too much. Oh, she's going to think she's going to back out. And I'm like, no, we have to all work on that stuff because it feels yuck. It doesn't feel clean.
And then I loved how you said, like, it helps you feel taken care of because it's that energetic exchange, right? And then you feel like, okay, I don't have to worry about this. You're taking that mental load on for me, and I can be the client in this situation rather than worrying about, am I overstepping your time? Am I doing too much? And it's like the client will end up almost over functioning or over making up for it rather than saying like, no, I've got this. This is how we work in this space. And then your client can just be like, oh, I don't need to worry about that. I loved your point on that.
Exactly. And, if someone is overstepping or getting out of scope creep, what I've loved, some people who have done it badly with me as the client, because again, I don't mean to, I just have ADHD, where they've gone, that's not included. I've loved when people go, oh my God, great idea. Let's put that into phase 2. That sounds amazing. Or they go, you know what? I think that's fantastic. However, this is the scope that we have at the moment. So if you want to add that, no problem. It's just going to cost an extra blah, blah, blah. And I go, no problem. And I think that's such a classy way to handle it instead of going into that martyr energy and going, oh, here it is again, because you'll always continue to attract that. And by the way, when you consistently do that, over deliver, undercharge, it's really tricky because then people recommend you based on that. And they'll go, oh, work with this person because they'll give you blah, blah, blah. Or, and then people think that's what they're getting for that money. Because you've made the mistake, right?
Yeah. I've never even thought about that. I've never even thought about that. That is so true.
So,
yeah.
On that too, I had a friend, Victoria Gibson. I don't mind telling her name because she's so much better at this now. In her first year of Mastermind as a leader, and she's a marketing and Facebook ads expert, what she would do with her clients is that they would hire her to do ads. And she'd go, oh, but their website's terrible. Okay, I'll just fix their website. Oh, their copy's shit. All right, I'll just do that. Oh, their photos look terrible. All right, I'll just do a little bit of, photoshopping on that. And she ended up doing every single part of their business that she didn't even, she wasn't charging for, And so I think that's the thing that we get into because we want to be helpful. We want to be kind. We want people to succeed, but it's not always helping them to do that. And I know when I first started doing one-to-one coaching and I'd have 3-hour sessions instead of 1 hour with people, I thought I was being generous, but I was actually giving them 1,000 open tabs in their brain.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't helping them to actually move forward.
Action.
And not at all. And then the same thing happened when I did my group program, is that people would tag me day and night and I would answer them. And what I realized is that they weren't doing the work. And so anyone who's got a group program with community attached, I want you to write this down because it's life-changing for me. They'd tag me and ask me a question. I'd say, great question. What part of the course are you up to?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to go back and say, this is your work to do. And I've created this container for you and I've created the modules and the answers are in there. I can't do it for you. I can't regurgitate it for you. You need to go and do that. And then you can ask a question based on what you're up to.
What you're up to.
That helped. Yeah, that helped me so much. But I made a ton of mistakes around that because I just wanted to be helpful and I wanted to be available, thinking that that was what people were buying from me.
That is such a great point, because one of the things that I find sometimes, like the difference between like a course versus a group coaching program, is sometimes people will say, they'll come to me and they'll want to do a group coaching program, and I'll encourage them over time, if you're listening, to have core content. So you have your core content, your course content that people can go through at their own speed. And then you use your core, like your group coaching, to actually implement what they're doing. And without that, then they're so dependent on your time and you're just teaching them concepts, whereas they can go through your core content, learn what you're teaching them about, what you're opening their minds to learn about in your expertise, and then you actually implement in your calls. But if you don't have that, you won't be able to actually help them do the work either.
It's so true. And it's overwhelming to people as well.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you said core content, because I'm not sure what year you joined My Money Bootcamp. Do you remember when it was?
Oh, it's been a little while now, maybe 2022 or 2023, something like that. A few years.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think what happened was maybe 2018-ish, maybe even a bit earlier. I'd come back from maternity leave and I just wasn't across a lot of stats and stuff in the business. And then I was like, oh my God, guys, our refund rate has like really gone up.
Mm-hmm.
Like what happened? And before I went on maternity leave, I did a bit of a revamp of the course, which I do every 2 years or so. And I added in a lot of extra content, a lot of bonus content.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I was trying to be thorough. And because I thought, I'm going to be on maternity leave, so I'm not going to be, in the group as much. I ended up still doing it. So I was like, I want to make sure that all of their questions are answered. So one of the things we talk about is forgiveness, right? Forgiveness with money mistakes. And so I had my video about forgiveness, and then I had like 4 tabs per lesson. And it was like, here is Oprah talking about forgiveness. Here's this TED talk about forgiveness. Here are 3 books about forgiveness, because I was like, I want to make sure I'm covering all the bases. And then what happened was people would buy the course, they'd open up the course and they'd go, I can't do all of this. But because I created it, they felt like I had to do it. In my mind, I was like, this is optional.
This is bonus, right? Yeah. This is like enrichment content.
Yeah. Yes, this is me being like, here are my like annotations. Yeah. And so I was like, oh yeah, this is great. And I realized that I was setting people up to fail. I was creating too much, and it was just unnecessary. So what I did was I stripped all of that stuff out. And so I still had like 18 videos in there, still a lot of stuff, but I stripped out, you think 18 times 2 extra things for each thing. Like I was just doing too much. And so our refund rate halved over the next couple of months. And people who had been there for a while but hadn't logged in were going, oh my God, Denise, the course is so rich. Like, so nuanced. So like, because I was making it simpler for people. But again, it is that over-delivering thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happened where I used to run it live all the time. So originally it was a 6-week program. And then I was like, I can't just do this once a year because people need money mindset stuff now, right? So I was like, I ended up running it 4 times a year. And you think it's like a 6 to 8 week course, but like each time you're marketing the future courses, I was like, I'm in conception, all the trimesters at once, delivering a baby and breastfeeding a baby all at the same time.
Yeah.
I was so overwhelmed. And I was trying to be really accommodating with time zones. So I was having 2 like time zone options as well. And then people were still like, but what about my time zone? So I was like, do I add a 3rd time zone option? It was ridiculous. And so I had to strip everything down and say, okay, this is what works for me. So you can join anytime. You self-pace your way through the program. We still do launches because some people like to feel like they're doing it with a group.
The community. Mm-hmm.
So that's fine. It's pretty arbitrary, but it feels like people are doing it. And also I have 2 live calls at the end of the month. So I have 2 time zones, but it's the same topic. And I've really simplified it because people will then going, well, what's the next thing? What's the next silver bullet? And I go, it's actually the same work. Like, yes, I could create a Bootcamp 2.0, but it will be exactly the same thing because I realize I'm like, oh, I'm not taking you along your journey. I am
like a
this little mothership
spiral. Like
place.
it, like I always think of it as like learning in a spiral. Like you come back to it and come back to it. And like the same blocks that I had before I hit like certain milestones in my business, they'll just come back in new ways. And so it's like the spiral that you keep coming back to the money mindset work. It's not a linear process with your course, right?
It's not. It's really not. And I mean, you absolutely could do different versions, repackage it in a different way. So I've set my business up for that very deliberately. So then it's like you pay once, you stay forever. So that means then I'm not going outside of, just because you're not maybe working on that particular thing right now, doesn't mean I have to create all these other things to entertain you. You come back when you want to refresh on this.
And the other thing that I share on that is that sometimes I think because we come from this place of like, I really want to help people, I want to do more for them, and you have your expertise, people tend to want to give them everything, but no one was trying. Like if you've got a master's in, dietetics or a master's in whatever your specialty is, we don't like, I don't want to become a dietitian. I don't want to become the money mindset mentor. I don't want to become these things, right? I just want to learn from you what I need to get to my results. And so when you put too much in it, you just end up fire hosing your clients and they're overwhelmed. And so if you could just give them the least amount that they need to get the result, that's when people are going to say like, oh, thank you. This was so doable for me, rather than feeling like we need to put too much of our expertise in there.
Exactly. But there's a discipline in that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people will ask you for other things. And, I've had people say, oh, well, can we do like accountability buddies? And I'm like, absolutely feel free to find an accountability buddy, but I'm not creating that for you. People say, oh, can I create a spin-off group? I go, no. But also you have to create boundaries within that, because the first couple of years, people were allowed to talk about anything they wanted in the group. And at some point I had to say, like, we have to focus in here. You've got so many places that you can talk about relationships or politics or whatever. In this space, we are talking about money mindset. So you can't ask a business question or a marketing question or, oh, what webinar software is everyone using today? And even that for me was tricky, because I wanted it to be, at first I was like, it's a democracy. Everyone gets a say in how this group is run. And then I'm like, yeah, but they can come in and out when they want to. I am here all the time. And so it's okay for me to set it with what works for me. Similarly with the live calls, the evening call used to be at 8:00, and it used to go for like 2 hours, and I'd be too wired to go to bed. And I'd felt really resentful. I was like, I can't watch a show after this. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I just can't do that night call anymore. And then I went, maybe I'm allowed to like move it to 7 p.m.
Would that be okay? Am I
Keep
allowed?
it to an hour?
Could I?
Yes, I did. I really. Yes, I went through this whole process.
Oh, I've been through those. I mean, when I first ran my first program, not the program I run now, but when I was mentoring teachers, I think it took me a year and a half to take a week off. Like I had a call every single week and I never ever took a week off, because I was like, oh, they're paying for this monthly support. I have to always be there every single week. So yes, I can completely relate to that. Like having those boundaries and saying, okay, I'm building this expectation in, so I allow myself space to take time for myself and be with my family and do things. Like it doesn't always have to be exactly because you can't make a program work exactly for everyone's time zone and everyone's schedule. Like it just, as long as you're upfront about it first, they know what they're getting into.
Well, they do. And that is the thing, right? Of going, this is what it is. Mm-hmm. Again, if you're wishy-washy about it, oh, what would work for everyone else? Everyone, yes. Like half the people are going to be unhappy.
So many of my clients will say, and if you're listening, I have done this, so it's not a bad thing, but you don't need to do it, is people will survey their potential or their beta group, and they'll say, what time works for everyone? And I said, no, like you're the leader in this room. You say this is when we're meeting, because it shifts the balance of like, who's the leadership, because they're looking to you as their guide. They want to see you as their guide, and you're never going to accommodate everyone. So then you get in this place of like, well, so-and-so said Tuesday and so-and-so said Monday. And is it fair? Who am I going to choose? Right. You need to just stand in your power and say, this is when we're doing it.
Exactly. And you feel really bad. But I'm a manifester in human design.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned with manifestors is that if we just tell people, then they'll go, okay. And it's really fascinating because I did want to be accommodating and nice and, you know, and it doesn't work. It really doesn't. And I think, I mean, how long have I've had 2012. So it's 13 years now. I've had this program. It took me 8 years to bring in someone else to be a community manager with me. And it took me about 10 years to take Christmas off. So we closed the group down for Christmas for 2 weeks. And I felt so bad. But I remember one year people were tagging me on Christmas Day for like random stuff. I'm like, what? And I was away with a friend at a conference and there was someone going, why haven't you answered my question, Denise? And I was like, it's the weekend. And also I'm not available to you 24/7. And I remember sitting there and I was like so upset because I wasn't upset at her. I was feeling guilty.
Mm-hmm.
I was feeling so guilty. And my friend was like, let's get some perspective here. This is a course that someone has bought from you where you've set up this amazing community. You've set up the things. Why does she think she's entitled to your time 24/7? Like, this is a course, Denise. And I was like, oh my God, it is. And I think I just built this up of like, people need me. I need to be available. They've paid money to me. And now I'm just like, no, that is not okay. Oh, I also think, how would I react? Would I really tag someone on a weekend and go, why haven't you answered my question? I would never. And so sometimes you really have to get perspective on that and go, would I do that? Absolutely not. That is such bad manners. We've been really lucky in that 13 years, 10,000 people through that program. I think I've removed maybe 2 or 3 people from the group and we gave them so many warnings. And, it takes a lot for us to do that. But when you set the intention, yes, there'll be people who try and overstep that. But generally what you'll see is that people then will police other people and they will uphold it as well. And when I made those few shifts, like probably 4 or 5 years ago, it actually changed the people that I was attracting. I would have people who'd come in and go, oh, I've just been doing the course behind the scenes and I just did what you told me to. I just wanted to check in and tell you the results. And I'm like, oh my God, just beautiful, self-reliant people. This is brilliant. Like,
yeah.
Yay.
And I mean, I really like it as a client because I know I've had a few Christmases where it's closed down or different holidays and things like that. And for me, I really like that because then it reminds you as a business owner to say, oh, right, I don't need to be on 24/7 to be able to run my business. You know what I mean? Like you're allowed, like it's still there. I think sometimes my clients will say like, oh, I've like something happened to me in my personal life, I've lost momentum, and just trusting that no, even if you're not there all the time, it will come back and it's still, your momentum is still there and it's okay for you to step away. I love that you do that. So yes. Yeah.
Well, you know what though? This is so funny, Lauren. I actually didn't do that until I had community managers because I felt bad about them working at Christmas. I was happy to do it. Yes. Isn't that funny, right? I was like, oh, we can't expect them to work over Christmas, so let's just shut down.
Yes, it's like my community, like my success person for my program. I was like, oh, well, make sure when you go away that you should say an out of office message that you're not available for this and this time. And I thought, oh, I could do that. I could do that.
Well, yeah. I think where I started doing it was baby steps for me. So first of all, I was like, oh, I'm just not going to go in there on the weekends. And I had to be very disciplined. But actually now what I've done, which has been the game changer, is that I'm only in the group as my business profile, not my personal one. And so when I'm on Facebook on my personal profile, I don't see all of those things come up anymore. Yeah. Whereas I used to, and I'd think, well, I'm just at the doctor's office in the waiting room. I'll answer that question. And it's like, oh, no. I have times where I go in for work. And if sometimes someone tags my personal profile, because I don't want to leave as my personal profile completely. And I'll just tag my business profile and say, oh, I'll get to that when I'm next in. Because again, I want to train people, even though it is an international group. So there's no time zone break for me. Ever, right?
They're always around.
Everyone's but I'm like, no, it's like this is the boundary, and I just do not go in there on the weekend. But even when I hired the community manager, who's the beautiful Mara, and we've had other people come in as well, is we really trained her to always refer back to the material. And you'll notice this, I think, when you're in the group. She'll always go, oh, remember Denise says, or in this part of the course. And they'll link to that part of the course, because we don't also then want to create a situation where the community managers are then over delivering and not letting people do their work. And for me, I always have to remember too, because my course is pay once, stay forever, is that I have customer service costs now, right? And so I have to make sure that we're always creating things for the new people, as in, it's not a place where I just completely entertain people who've been there forever. No, you're doing your work. Like, you're doing the basics, just like someone who's just come in today, and you're in here, you're a student of this work and with a beginner mindset. And so there's a lot of little subtleties that we have to do to make sure that you're not then just creating this massive customer service cost and stress for yourself forever and ignoring the new people. And that's almost why too, I'll go on podcasts and I'll say the same basic things over and over again, because I'm like, I'm not trying to educate people who know lots about money mindset, who have read my book. I'm trying to reach people who've never heard about this before. And then that keeps me feeling like too, oh, I know what this course is for.
Because there are so many people that will say that, like, even with me, I've said, you need to look at your money mindset. This is a money mindset thing. And that you might not necessarily realize. One thing that I wanted to ask you about, actually, as you were talking about that, as we close out, is one of the challenges that I know I faced and a lot of my clients have faced is, like, as you make more money, sometimes your expenses can go up, and then that can create this like scarcity or fear as you're investing more in your business and your revenue is going up, but how do you navigate that? Or how would you recommend, as someone is, yes, you're making more money, and sometimes I think we think like, oh, I've arrived, I've hit this revenue goal number, but now my expenses are more, and is this okay? And there's this fear of I guess not investing in your business, but having your expenses go up as your business grows. How would you recommend that people take a look at that?
Yeah, well, this is why I think you really have to look at your business model as well, right? And to go, okay, what am I selling? Because it can be very easy as you're making money to forget what your core program is, and I've done it too. I went, oh, I think I need an app, or I think I need this. And we can sometimes dilute things, or we can invest money in ways that aren't necessarily the best, right? So a good example on this is my course looks really nice. Like, it really does.
It does.
But production values have diminishing returns. And so you can start to spend more and more making your course look better and better. But there's a point where it's just like, it's fine. Just sell more of them.
Yeah.
And I know we got to that point. Money Archetypes was a different beast because we did basically 8 launches in one, because there's 8 archetypes. So creating that course, that version of that course, cost me $100,000 in video production alone. And so people might look at that and think, oh, I've got to match that level of production value. But to be honest, I kind of peaked, I reckon a couple of years in, I was like, it's fine. You can't spend more and more money on some things like that. Some things will, like, so for example, I see people who are cheapy, like being cheap on things like their email systems. They go, oh, I can only have 10,000 contacts. And it's like, well, you're limiting
your potential growth.
Yeah. So yes, invest in that. But I think it's easy to get sucked into thinking, well, if it looks better, people will buy more. And again, statistics, right? You'll love this. I was like, all my conversion stats are shit. This is the same thing. I came back from maternity leave. And it's because we'd done this massive rebrand beforehand. And people were like, do I click on the B? Do I click on the thing? Like, pages were taking longer to load because they looked sexier. And we stripped everything down and conversions went up again. So I think that's where you've got to be really careful. Like, yes, invest in branding. Yes, invest in good photos, but not at the expense. We start to think that's our business, and it's not. Sometimes it's fine, right? And you start with what you've got. And when I think of my first couple of versions of my course, like, even when I got my first pro one done with it, like, iPhones can do it just as good now. and so like I've had the same Rode lavalier mic for ages, but I was like, oh, I need to get like a fancy microphone and I need to get all this stuff before I do my next thing. And that's where you've got to watch, because it's so tempting and it's fun, right? Other people I know have gone away from their core business to go, oh, I'm going to run retreats, or I'm going to invest money in a big conference. And that's not necessarily the thing that you're selling to people. It can become a distraction. So yes, I think it's good to look at that all the time. And of course, little things creep in where you start to just have lots of little subscriptions here and there that you've forgotten about. There's lots of times we can sit down and really look at those money leaks. But I think it's the big ones. It's just getting, like losing sight of what you're doing and who you're serving.
Mm-hmm. And I love that point about like the retreats or different things, because I think as entrepreneurs, a lot of people, and I know myself included, will want to like create this new thing. This is an exciting thing, rather than doing the thing that brings in revenue on a regular basis. And I'm guessing too, when you spent $100K on the filming of the Sacred Money Archetypes course, it wasn't like, it's not like you hadn't created courses before and you hadn't tested it. It was like I'm guessing it was built up over time. You had done Money Bootcamp and things like that beforehand, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. But again, it is like for Money Bootcamp, where I only let myself re-record it like every 2 years, because so many people start to fiddle with their back end stuff, of going, oh, I need new things. And it's like, no, like focus on your front end. So I give myself permission. I can make random marketing things. I can make opt-ins because it's all front end stuff, but don't break your back end.
Mm-hmm. Don't break the asset. Yeah.
Don't break the asset. And I tell you the way that I've done this, it's really, really helped me, is have someone who's ahead of you who has a similar target audience to you. And so for me, that was always Marie Forleo, because I went, B School that she runs has had probably 100,000 students by now, right? So she was always like 5 times ahead of me. And so every time I thought, everyone's seen Money Bootcamp, because of course you get bored of your own thing because you know it so well.
And you've talked about it and you figure, oh my gosh, everyone's heard me say this thing over and over and over again. Yes.
Exactly. And if you're not growing your like new potential audience, then all of your audience has seen it as well. And so every time I think, oh, everyone's seen this, I've reached the limit, I go, oh, I wonder how many people have been in her course now. And then I've said to myself, okay, well, when you surpass hers, because it's proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There's proof that there are more clients. And that's really helped me to go, no, you're thinking too small. You're thinking too small. There's always more people who will be served by this work. And then when you do stick with that, and then people come in and go, this is brand new information, then you go, yes, it's not about me. I am not my target audience. It's and people who have been in my world for a long time, they're not my target audience for this course. They've already done it. Mm-hmm. So that's a real discipline, but it's just helped me of just like, oh yeah, you can quit tomorrow, or okay, fine, get as many as she has and then you can quit. Because otherwise there's always more people.
And showing yourself proof that it's possible when you see other people who are doing something similar, like, oh, if she can do it, then I can do it. And always looking for that possibility too. And I love that. Yeah, I mean, and yep. I'm sure there are still people, even in the entrepreneur world, who don't know who Marie Forleo is, even though to us it's like, well, Marie Forleo, everyone knows that name, right? So there's always more people.
And every time I'm with my entrepreneurial friends, someone will say, oh, have you guys been following the blah, blah, blah? She's got like 1 million people. And I go, never heard of her. And they go, are you kidding? Like, she's just made 10 million. And I go, never heard of her.
Yeah.
Even my sister-in-law recently was like, oh, have you been following this influencer drama? But she's one of Australia's biggest. I was like, never even heard of her once in my entire life. And so we always think that our little fishbowl is the whole market. And it's not. There's so many more people we can help. The way too that I've been able to keep myself motivated on this, again, thinking front end, is that I'll go delve into different industries. So I went and spoke to a dance association, which I know you're a dancer as well, so I could dive into money blocks for dancers for a while. And you know what? It's like when you go to the water park, there's big slides, small slides, they all go into the same pool. And I think of that with my work. I go, great. I went and spoke to a builders association, so people who had their own construction firms. about their money blocks. It was so exciting. I was like, oh, it just gave me a little fresh, because I'm like, 80% of this is the same. It's just little nuances. So whenever I feel like I get bored, I just go, okay, go and create like a book or an opt-in or just a podcast episode for that industry. You'll fall in love with your work all over again. And it's for a useful thing. If someone listens to that and go, wow, that sounds great. Great, jump on down the slide. You'll go in the same pool as everyone else. And I think that's a really great way too, if you feel like your work's a bit stale, is just do a little shift to it, like just on the front end, not on the back end.
And it's so abundant when you think about it, because it's like there's always, like, I think it's almost hard to imagine just how many people there are in the world. And so when you go into this new area, it's like, oh, right, they've never heard of me and they've never heard of this work, and there's always something new there. And it's hard to really picture just how many people there are. So many people in the world.
There's always more. Yeah.
Denise, it's been so fabulous having you on the podcast today. Is there anything that you would add to close out to call this episode complete?
Yes, I think it's this message, right, of nobody will be surprised by you creating things. When you create stuff, people believe you. It's the weirdest thing. They'll go, oh, of course you've created a course. If you just do stuff, just do it. That's the only way. You'll never get over it, but it's the only way through it. And people go, oh, of course you've launched a thing. Of course you've published a book. Why wouldn't you? And then you kind of go, yeah, I guess. And just asking yourself all that time of like, why not me? I can do it. Why not?
I love that. Yes, it's so true. I mean, even me, I was like, you know what? I'd love to have Denise on my podcast. Why not me? So there you go. Yeah, absolutely.
And you asked, but if you didn't ask, I wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
Right? So
That's
it's like,
such a good note to end on. Yeah. So, and I love that, like, the more you step into it, the more you become that person who does the thing that you want to step into when you're creating your program in your business or whatever it is. So Denise, thanks so much for being here. How can people find you? How can people, if they want to work more with you, learn more about what you do, how can people connect back to the podcast?
Yes, so my social media handles and my website are denisedt.com. So Instagram is a really great way to follow me, I think, Denise DT. And then I would start with one of my books. So my books are on Amazon, Kindle. I do an audio version as well. And you could start with Get Rich Lucky Bitch for really thinking about money blocks. And my newest book, Chill and Prosper, I've got a little thing here, is about business and how to like get your business simple and easeful in alignment with your personality. So yeah, that's a really great place to start too. And of course, if someone's looking for a course, they can just jump straight into Money Bootcamp, and the details are on my website too.
Yeah, and we'll link it all up in the show notes. So thanks so much for being here, Denise.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
My pleasure.